Hey everybody, it's Miriam here at the Paperwheelz Studio. This will probably be a nice and short video for you because I'm going to share with you my new find for junk journals. It was actually an odd find in the way that I got it. My dad's neighbor had given these magazines to my father, who's 85 years old, and he knows that I'm saving old papers, old magazines, and things like that, because I've told him if he runs into any in his house, not to get rid of them. So when he was finished reading articles, he gave them to me, and now I have three under 30. I'm going to show you three things here, but I'm certainly not going to create anything with them today. I also did take a couple pages out, and the pages that are in these are fragile, and if I were going to make something where I had to rely on a fold or gluing, I would probably double them up to give them a little more strength, or at least double up the part or at least reinforce the part that was folded. So anyway, these are Good Old Days magazines. They have photos, poems, cartoons, stories, illustrations of the days gone by. They were published beginning in the late 1960s, that's still published today. The ones you get today, however, and I don't know what year they switched over, the newer ones have the shiny magazines like the front of this pages. These ones from back, but I have two from 79 and one from 80, which, 79 and 80, it's still vintage. It's more than 50 years ago, or pretty darn close to 50. These are the yellowed pages, like old book pages. So that's why they're so fragile. However, if you get your hand on a couple of these, they are a wonderful source for old photos, old cartoons. Even some of the articles are pretty neat. It's stories that older people have written about things they did as a child or things they remember that happened. It also has a bunch of old advertisements here and there. So I thought I would just flip through these just so you can kind of get an idea of what's in them. I mean, this is somebody wrote about early auto adventures. Not all pictures are cartoons, as you'll see. Some of them are, have their own illustrations, which some are cute. I mean, some are illustrated in a way that I might use it in a journal. However, not all of them are that way. Some are actual photographs, like these black and whites up here. This one's from 1928. So a lot of them, when they do have them, will tell you when it was taken, at what year and things, and even the cartoons, what year that cartoon originally was published. So there's just a lot of various things. A lot of these from 79 and 80 that I have are pictures from the early 1900s in them. Like here's one of a home, and here is a buggy. It says, my grandfather was 50 years old when he sat at the wheel of his Avery truck with his son Roy, and that's 1913. So pretty cool. I just love these yellow. It's the yellowed book page, and obviously these have been around for a while. I don't know what color they were originally, but they've got all, look, here's even some grunginess down here at the bottom. Hold that up where you can see the grungy, where it's hard to tell what it is. It's somebody was reading and probably having a snack or something. You never know. But I really like the, like here's a poem. I really like the old photographs. There's one, let's see. It was the Sioux Rapids Public School home with most of the class outside, 70 years ago at least, and that was back in 1979. You do the math, that would put it, quite a few years ago now. So, yep, here is something from old Hollywood. Old pictures, old actors, actresses that you would no longer see. Here's James Dean and from 1955. So it's just like full of yellowed text things that you could use in your journal, full of black and white photographs. I mean, just all kinds of neat stuff. And 1974, of course, that's not, at the time that wouldn't have been vintage, but it is to us today. Here's the Good Old Days cartoon. And here's some old cartoons that have been reprinted. This was a Sunday page of the Fritzy Ritz, October 2nd, 1932. So yeah, and here's here's one for fountain pens. When's the last time you picked a pen up for 69 cents and get a nice pen rather than a cheap pen that isn't going to write by the time you leave the building you got it from? And then we've got some cute little girls in 1914 with bonnets and some pretty dresses. And so it's just a wide variety. Here's shopping at the Barnes in Barnesville, Ohio in 1897. So somebody's told a story about that. 1900s, the photograph. And these are things, information that people have sent in. And the magazine, that's what it's full of. A depression story with a happy ending. Cute little bird down here. So yeah. Just a treasure trove of vintage items, especially if you're in an area where it's hard for you to get your hands on vintage stuff. I know the area I live in, I've gone to some of the thrift stores and places that would be likely to have vintage type things. Found some books, but it's very hard to get your hands on old magazines or old documents and things like that. I do have some that were given to me, but it's just really tough to get your hands on old photographs and old things like that unless you know somebody that happens to have some. So anyway, we're looking for knitting patterns of all kinds. They'll pay you $5 to $20 for sending in your knitting patterns for this particular address. So, yep. And I did do a search online, and I found some of these. I looked on eBay. I may have been a few on Etsy. I'm not quite sure. I always wonder when you have old magazines like this, if you sent it in for the price that's on the little thing here, because it doesn't say it expires, if it would, like I can order for 1977 ones. If I sent that in, could I truly get what it says on the ticket? And sometimes you wonder if that place is even open. However, I do know they are still publishing this magazine under the same name. It's a lot of times you might find it, say, in a long-term care facility or for their residents. It's very similar to a reminiscence type magazine, and where, people who are older like to think about the times when they were younger. So country schoolyard games, hometown pictures that people have sent in from the early 1900s. Let's see, that Clowns and Klansmen, that would never happen today, y'all. Not in a normal city parade. Can you imagine going to watch your city parade at 4 years old and see people dressed in Ku Klux Klan outfits and walking down the street? I know in my hometown there have been marches from them. And I'm glad we live in the times that we live in now in some ways. And in some ways I wish we were back to those times. How to Cook a Husband. I gotta read that one. I think that would be really cool. So, anyway. Am I looking? No, I'm at the second magazine here. flipping through here. So you can see there's a card from in the 30s. Grandpa was different and a lot of fun to remember. He had a swap shop, apparently. So, yeah. Lots of old stories that people have told. I love to read, so even the stories in this would be fascinating. There is a 1936 film, I believe, My American Wife, and Southern had Francis Letterer, and Southern here was made about 62 movies in 1929 to 1973. So 1940s, An Angel from Texas. So yeah, some pretty old more cartoons. A different cartoon from 31. It's also interesting to read a couple different ones. Read these cartoons to see what their issues were at that point in time. And then these ladies, a lot of times on the back of the cartoons are ads. And this is one from 1913. So, yeah. Good resource if you can't get your hands on old magazines. Even the newer ones probably have some things from the 70s and 80s, maybe. I know I'll be 60 this year, and I was born in 65, so yeah, it would be stories from the late 60s, early 70s, and maybe even a little earlier than that, because obviously I'm 60 as a younger old. Look at all these collars, the correct styles in men's collars. A box of 6 for 59 cents. 1915. So, lovely, lovely, lovely. But let's see if there's anything else in here that might be. Happy birthday, Walter Pigeon. Old time recipes. Some old time recipes. Old rockers. Famous people who had died. Of course, there's the guy who played played on the Addams Family. Lurch from the, his name had left me there for a minute. Lurch from the Addams Family. He was on television from 64 to 66. And he was only 46 when he died. That would have been in 79. Wow. Suspenders. So, yep, a lot of oldie things in these that are really cool to take a look at. So if you have never heard of this, this one is, actually it looks like the oldest one, but it's yellowed more than the others. So it's from 1980. Wagons, 1922 article here with pictures from them. The Day I Met Dick Tracy. That might be interesting. Here is someone with an old record player. They call those phonograph player. I'm not sure what they call them, honestly. Hollywood. And somebody had a signed picture there, apparently, from Mary, what is her name? Mary Boland. So, just some really neat old things. And even these are, I wish you could touch this paper, because it's like reading an old book page, but it's, I don't know, maybe even not quite as thin as newspaper. Between newspaper and a book page. But anyway, I wanted to just basically show you these magazines and tell you where you could find them in case they are something you might want to get and use in your journal. You could use, obviously you could fussy cut your pictures or the poetry. But you could also use these as pages in a journal that would have neat things to read. You could put a cart if you want to use a cartoon. Your bird imitations are great. Try me in with another one, Kate. All right, let's see. A hard one might be, and then the clock goes off, and Dad comes in and said, do a homing pigeon. It's late. So, that would have been funny at some point. Anyway, that's what I had for you today, and that's what I wanted to show you. So, I hope you all enjoy this. Get out there, find you some, even if you can't find the Good Old Days magazines, find you some other, you know, tell your elderly friends, neighbors to ask them if they could have, some people have magazines from way back when. These are only from 79 and 80, but still they are, it's 50 years ago. So, yeah. I mean, 65 would be 60 years ago. 75 would be 50 years ago. So, pretty close to 50. Just a few years short of that. So, that's all I have for you today. There's even actually these postcard little snippet things. I was just sitting here thinking that, oh, those look a lot like stamps. So that you could actually cut some of those out and use them. I mean, all of them have the postcard things, but you could cut some of those out and use them as stamps in a journal. So, and they have different holidays, it looks like, on some of them. Anyway, that's all I have for you today, folks. So be sure you like, subscribe, and share my videos. We're getting up there, and we're only a quarter of our way. We got 2 more months, but I need a lot of shares, watches, and subscribers. Subscribing costs you nothing. All you have to do is subscribe, and you'll get notifications of when I put out new videos. I hope you enjoy them. Please comment below if you have any comments to share with me. I love getting your comments and getting your feedback. So please feel free to comment below. If you have feedback, good or bad, I'll take them both and go from there. So I'll see y'all later in my next video. Bye for now.